For a moment, nobody moved. The children stood frozen in the doorway, snow melting from their shoes onto the checkered floor. The boy couldn't have been older than 10, his sister perhaps 7 or 8. Their faces were pale with cold, lips slightly blue. "We're sorry," the boy said quickly, his voice steady despite his shivering. "We saw the lights were still on." Tamara moved from behind the counter, her instincts taking over. Come in, come in." "You'll catch your death out there." The girl looked up at her brother, waiting for his permission. He gave a small nod, and they stepped fully inside, the door swinging shut behind them with a final-sounding click. Up close, Tamara could see how their clothes hung loose on thin frames. The girl's jacket was missing buttons, secured instead with safety pins. The boy's sneakers were split at the seams, plastic grocery bags visible inside them, a makeshift solution to keep feet dry in snow. "Sit anywhere you like," Tamara said, gesturing to the empty booths. "Let me turn the heat up." The children chose the booth nearest the heating vent, sliding in with the careful movements of those trying not to be noticed. Tamara adjusted the thermostat, then grabbed 2 clean mugs from behind the counter. "Hot chocolate?" she offered, keeping her voice casual. She could sense their wariness like stray cats ready to bolt. The boy opened his mouth, probably to refuse, but the girl spoke first. "Yes, please." Her voice was small but clear, with a politeness that spoke of good teaching somewhere in her past. Tamara nodded and set to work, her back to them as she heated milk on the stove Dion had left clean. She could feel their eyes on her, measuring, assessing. Something was clearly wrong. Children this young shouldn't be out alone on a night like this in clothes so inadequate for the weather. "Storm came in faster than they predicted," she said conversationally as she stirred the milk. "You two live around here?" A pause. "Sort of," the boy answered vaguely. Tamara added cocoa powder and a touch of sugar, stirring slowly. She wasn't going to push, not yet. The important thing was getting them warm. She set the 2 steaming mugs on a tray along with some napkins and carried them to the booth. The children's eyes widened at the sight. The girl reached for her mug immediately, wrapping small fingers around the warmth while the boy hesitated. "We don't have money," he admitted quietly. Tamara waved away his concern. "On the house. Nobody should be out in weather like this without something warm in their bellies." Relief flooded his face before he caught himself, schooling his features back into careful neutrality. But he took the mug, sipping cautiously at the hot liquid. "I'm Tamara," she said, sliding into the seat across from them. "I work the late shift here." The boy studied her face before answering. "I'm Devin. This is my sister, Lily." Tamara smiled. "Nice to meet you, Devin and Lily." She didn't ask for a last name. Not yet. The girl, Lily, had chocolate on her upper lip. She seemed younger than Tamara had first thought, maybe 6. "It's really good," she said, offering a tentative smile. "Glad you like it." Tamara leaned back, keeping her posture relaxed. "So what brings you two out on a night like this?" Devin exchanged a look with his sister. "We were trying to get to the bus station." "Bus station's clear on the other side of town," Tamara pointed out gently. "And the last bus left at 9. The boy's shoulders slumped slightly. "We missed it." Lily's face fell and she stared down at her hot chocolate. Her lower lip trembled, but she didn't cry. Tamara had the sense this child had learned to hold back tears. "Where were you headed?" Tamara asked, another pause. Devin seemed to be calculating something in his head. "We have an aunt in Cedar Rapids. We were going to stay with her for a while. It was a lie." Tamara had worked with enough troubled kids at the diner, teenagers with nowhere to go, children whose parents couldn't afford sitters, to recognize the signs. The careful story, the too steady voice, the protectiveness of the older sibling. "That's a long trip," she observed. "Your parents know you're traveling tonight?" Devin's face hardened slightly. "We don't have parents." The simple statement hung in the air between them. Lily looked up at her brother, then at Tamara, nodding in confirmation. "Car crash," Devin added, his voice flat in the way people's voices get when they've had to repeat painful information too many times. "Last spring," Tamara's heart squeezed. "I'm sorry to hear that." Lily was shredding her napkin into tiny pieces. "We were with Mrs. Porter, but then she got sick and we had to move. And then we were with the Hendersons, but they had a baby coming, so we moved again. And now we're with Mr. and Mrs. Blackwell, but—" She stopped abruptly when her brother shot her a warning look. Foster homes, Tamara realized. They had been bouncing around the system. The Blackwells. she said carefully. They live near here? Devin's face closed off. We should go. Thanks for the hot chocolate. He moved to stand, but Tamara raised a hand. Wait, you can't go back out in that. The weather's only getting worse. As if to confirm her words, the wind howled against the windows, rattling the glass in its frames. The sleet had turned entirely to snow now, falling in thick, heavy flakes that were quickly accumulating on the street. Look, Tamara said, I'm not going to make you do anything you don't want to, but you're safe here and it's warm. At least wait until the storm lets up a little. Devin hesitated, glancing at his sister. Lily was still shivering despite being inside for several minutes now. He sat back down slowly. Are you hungry? Tamara asked, already knowing the answer. Lily nodded before her brother could respond. We didn't get dinner, she said quietly. Something in the way she said it made Tamara's maternal instincts flare. When's the last time you ate? Devin looked uncomfortable. Lunch at school? Sort of. Lily got lunch. I let Jordan have mine because he forgot his money again. Tamara stood up, decision made. I'm making you something to eat. We told you we can't pay, Devin started, and I told you it's on the house. Tamara was already moving toward the kitchen. Burgers okay? Or would you prefer breakfast food? We serve breakfast all day, Lily perked up. Pancakes? Pancakes it is. Tamara smiled at the girl's sudden enthusiasm. With bacon? Both children nodded, the hunger in their eyes impossible to miss. Tamara pushed through the swinging door into the kitchen, her mind racing. The situation was becoming clearer. Foster kids running away from what might be a bad placement. The Blackwells. She didn't know them personally, but the name sounded vaguely familiar. She quickly mixed pancake batter, her hands working on automatic while her thoughts tumbled. She should call someone. Child services, probably. But it was nearly midnight in a snowstorm. And if these kids were running away, they had their reasons. The griddle sizzled as she poured the first pancake. Through the service window, she could see the children whispering to each other. Lily's small face was animated, hopeful, while Devin looked tense, shoulders hunched beneath his thin jacket. Tamara added bacon to the second griddle. Technically, she wasn't supposed to use the kitchen. That was Dion's domain. And she definitely wasn't supposed to give away food, but some rules mattered less than hungry children on a snowy night. As she cooked, she took out her phone and quickly searched Blackwell foster parents plus the name of their town. Nothing concerning came up immediately, but that didn't mean much. The system was overworked, complaints went uninvestigated, and kids fell through the cracks. She'd seen it happen with her neighbor's foster children. The pancakes turned golden brown. Tamara stacked them high on 2 plates, added bacon, and found the real maple syrup they saved for special occasions. These children needed the calories, and besides, what good was working in a diner if you couldn't provide a proper meal to those who needed it most? When she returned to the booth, Lily's eyes widened at the sight of the food. Devin tried to maintain his guard, but his expression softened when Tamara set the plates in front of them. Thank you, he said quietly. You're welcome. Tamara sat across from them again, watching as they began to eat. Despite their obvious hunger, both children showed good manners, using napkins and cutting the pancakes into careful bites. So, Tamara said after they'd had a chance to eat a little, want to tell me what's going on with the Blackwells? Devin chewed slowly, buying time. Lily looked at her plate. We don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, Tamara added, but I can't help if I don't know what's wrong. They don't hurt us, Devin said quickly, as if that was the most important thing to establish. Not like that. Tamara nodded, relieved but still concerned. That's good. But something's still not right? Lily pushed a piece of pancake around in the syrup. The food cabinet has a lock, she said softly. And we're not allowed to eat except at meal times. And sometimes there's not enough, Devin added. Mr. Blackwell says we eat too much for what the state pays them. They have 3 older boys, Lily continued. They're real kids. They get to eat whenever they want. And they take our stuff, Devin said, his voice hardening. The nice lady at our last placement gave Lily a music box. The Blackwell's oldest son broke it and said it was an accident. Mrs. Blackwell said I was being ungrateful when I cried, Lily whispered. Tamara felt a familiar anger building in her chest. The same feeling she got when Tyler came home upset because some kid had bullied him. But she kept her face calm, not wanting to scare the children. That sounds really tough, she said. No wonder you wanted to leave. Devin seemed to relax slightly when he realized she wasn't going to dismiss their concerns. "We just want to stay together," he explained. "The lady from the county said sometimes siblings get split up if they can't find a home for both. I promised my mom before she died that I'd look after Lily." The weight of that promise, made by a child not even 10 years old, made Tamara's heart ache. She watched as they continued eating, noting how they carefully saved some of the food as if planning to take it with them. Outside, the snow continued to fall. The radio had switched to a late-night talk show, the host's voice muffled compared to the storm's persistent howl. Tamara's phone showed it was now past midnight. She should call someone, but who? Not the police. They'd just returned the children to their foster home. But letting them continue alone in this weather was unthinkable. As if reading her thoughts, Devin spoke up. "We should go soon. We don't want to get you in trouble." "You're not getting me in trouble," Tamara assured him, though it wasn't entirely true. Harboring runaways could certainly cause problems. "But we need to figure out what happens next. You can't go to the bus station tonight." "Where then?" Devin asked, his young face showing a weariness no child should know. Before Tamara could answer, headlights swept across the diner windows as a vehicle pulled into the lot. All three of them turned to look. Through the swirling snow, Tamara recognized the county sheriff's SUV, its light bar dark but unmistakable. Lily grabbed her brother's hand, panic crossing her face. Devin looked at Tamara with betrayal in his eyes. "I didn't call them," Tamara said quickly. "I swear." The children didn't seem convinced. As the car door opened and a figure emerged into the storm, Tamara made a split-second decision that she knew might change everything. Tamara moved quickly to stand between the children and the door. "Stay here," she whispered to them. "Let me handle this." The bell jingled as the sheriff stepped inside, bringing a gust of cold air and snowflakes with him. He stomped his boots on the welcome mat and removed his hat. It was Sheriff Reynolds, a regular customer who usually came in for coffee and pie during Tamara's afternoon shifts. "Evening, Tamara," he said, surprise evident in his voice. "Or I guess it's morning now. Didn't expect to see anyone still open in this weather." Tamara forced a casual smile. "Just finishing up, actually. What brings you out in the storm, Sheriff?" Reynolds rubbed his gloved hands together. "Welfare checks. Making sure nobody's stranded. Power's out in the east part of town, and we've got trees down on Route 16. His eyes drifted past her to the booth where Devin and Lily sat frozen in place. "Didn't know you had customers." Tamara's mind raced. Behind her, she could feel the children's fear like a physical thing. "My son and my niece," she said, the lie slipping out easier than she expected. "My sister's working night shift at the hospital. Babysitter canceled last minute, so I had to bring them with me." The sheriff nodded, seemingly accepting the explanation. "Rough night for it." He stepped further inside, closing the door against the wind. "Mind if I get some coffee to go? Been driving for hours." "Of course," Tamara said, relief flooding through her as she moved behind the counter. She could feel Devin's eyes on her back, likely wondering why she had lied for them. As she prepared the coffee, Sheriff Reynolds made his way to the booth. "You kids doing okay?" he asked. Lily shrank against her brother. Devin nodded stiffly. "They're tired," Tamara called over her shoulder. "Been a long night." The sheriff smiled kindly at the children. "I bet my own kids never could sleep when it snowed. Too excited." He turned back to Tamara. "You planning to head home soon? Roads are getting worse by the minute." "I can give you all a ride if you need one." Tamara's heart pounded. A police escort was the last thing these children needed. "That's really nice, but we're fine. My car's out back. Just finishing these dishes before we go." Reynolds accepted the to-go cup she handed him. "Well, don't wait too long. They're talking about closing some roads if this keeps up." He took a sip of the coffee. "Perfect as always, Tamara. What do I owe you?" "On the house," she said. "You're out there keeping everyone safe tonight." The sheriff tipped his hat. "Much appreciated. You stay safe too." He glanced at the children again. "Make sure these little ones get bundled up good before you head out." After he left, Tamara waited until his taillights disappeared into the swirling snow before letting out the breath she'd been holding. She turned to find both children staring at her with wide eyes. "Why did you lie?" Lily asked, her small voice curious rather than accusatory. Tamara returned to the booth, sliding in across from them. "Because sometimes adults don't understand when kids need help. They just follow rules without thinking." Devin studied her face. "You could get in trouble." "I could," Tamara agreed. but I'd be in more trouble with myself if I didn't help when I could. The boy's shoulders relaxed slightly. What happens now? It was a good question. Tamara checked the time, nearly 1 in the morning. The storm showed no signs of letting up, and she couldn't take them back to the Blackwells. Taking them home with her seemed the only option, but that could lead to all sorts of complications. I know someone, Tamara said slowly, an idea forming. Someone who might be able to help. She works for social services, but she's not like the others. She actually cares. Social services people always say they care, Devon replied, skepticism heavy in his voice. Alice is different, Tamara insisted. She helped my neighbor's grandson get placed with his grandmother instead of strangers after his mom went to jail. She fights for kids. Lily looked up at her brother. Maybe she could help us stay together. Devon didn't look convinced, but some of the tension left his body. Can we at least wait until morning to call her? Tamara nodded. That's probably best. She'll need to see you both, talk to you. She glanced out at the steadily accumulating snow. And we're not going anywhere in this weather anyway. Where will we stay tonight? Lily asked, unable to stifle a yawn. Tamara made her decision. My place. It's not fancy, but it's warm, and my son won't mind sharing his room for one night. Your son, Devon repeated, a question in his voice. Tyler, Tamara confirmed.
He's 8.
Just a bit older than Lily. Lily perked up at this information. Does he have toys? A small smile crossed Tamara's face. Some. Not as many as he'd like, but enough. We don't want to be a bother, Devon said, the weight of adult worry evident in his young voice. You're not a bother, Tamara assured him. Everyone needs help sometimes. She began cleaning up their dishes, mind working through logistics. The walk home would be difficult in this weather, especially for the children in their inadequate clothing. And there was still the matter of closing the diner properly. Let me finish up here and then we'll go, she told them. I'll find you something warmer to wear for the walk. In the back room, Tamara rummaged through the lost and found box, coming up with a man's wool scarf and a pair of adult-sized gloves she could cut down for Lily. Not ideal, but better than nothing. She also found an old umbrella, which would provide some shelter from the falling snow. As she gathered these items, she took a moment to text Mrs. Williams, explaining that she'd be bringing 2 extra children home and asking if she could keep Tyler for another hour. The reply came quickly. No problem. Tyler's still sleeping. Be careful out there. When Tamara returned to the dining area, she found Devon carefully wrapping the remaining bacon in a napkin. For later, he explained, looking slightly ashamed. Smart thinking, Tamara said, pretending not to notice his embarrassment. We should take some more food with us. She moved behind the counter and filled a paper bag with muffins and fruit that would otherwise be thrown out tomorrow. She added bottles of juice and wrapped sandwiches from the cooler. Devon watched her with cautious hope. Won't you get in trouble? Tamara shrugged. Food safety regulations. Once it's been out a certain time, we can't sell it anyway. It wasn't entirely true, but it seemed to ease his conscience. After finishing the closing procedures and turning down the heat, Tamara helped bundle the children as best she could. She wrapped the scarf around Lily's neck and shoulders and fashioned makeshift mittens for her from the adult gloves. For Devon, she gave her own hat, insisting when he tried to refuse. Ready? She asked, zipping up her coat. Both children nodded, though neither looked eager to step back into the storm. Tamara couldn't blame them. The wind howled outside and the snow was now several inches deep. We'll stick close together, she told them. It's just 4 blocks. We can make it. The blast of cold air as they stepped outside took her breath away. Lily immediately pressed against her side, seeking warmth, while Devon gripped the paper bag of food with determined hands. Tamara opened the umbrella, but the wind nearly tore it from her grasp. This way, she shouted over the storm, pointing toward the residential area behind the diner. They moved slowly through the snow, their progress hampered by the wind and Lily's small legs. Tamara ended up carrying the girl for the last 2 blocks, her arms aching but her resolve firm. Devon trudged alongside them, his face set in grim determination. By the time they reached Tamara's apartment building, all 3 were soaked and shivering. The building's entrance had never looked so welcoming, a dingy hallway with flickering fluorescent lights, but blessedly warm compared to outside. Second floor, Tamara said, setting Lily down and stamping snow from her boots. The children followed her up the stairs, their wet shoes squeaking on the linoleum. At her door, Tamara fumbled with cold fingers to find her keys. Mrs. Williams opened her own door across the hall before Tamara could unlock hers. "Goodness, you look half frozen," the older woman exclaimed. She beckoned them inside. "Come in here where it's warm." Tyler's still asleep on my couch, grateful. Tamara ushered the children into her neighbor's apartment. Mrs. Williams took in their appearance with a quick, assessing glance but asked no questions, immediately fetching towels. "Get those wet things off before you catch your death," she instructed, her tone brooking no argument. As they peeled off wet jackets and shoes, Tamara briefly explained that the children needed a place to stay for the night. Mrs. Williams, bless her, simply nodded. "I made a pot of stew earlier," she said, still warm on the stove. "Those little ones look like they could use something hot in their bellies." While Mrs. Williams bustled about, finding dry socks and heating milk for more hot chocolate, Tamara checked on Tyler. Her son was sleeping soundly on the couch, oblivious to the newcomers. She brushed his hair from his forehead, thankful he was safe and warm. Devin and Lily sat at Mrs. Williams's small table, looking utterly exhausted, but finally relaxed enough to let their guard down. Lily's eyelids drooped as she spooned stew into her mouth. "We'll stay here tonight," Tamara decided, grateful for her neighbor's silent understanding. "In the morning, we'll call Alice, the nice social worker lady?" Lily asked sleepily. "That's right," Tamara confirmed. "The one who's going to help us make sure you and Devin stay together. Promise?" The little girl's voice was barely audible. Tamara met Devin's eyes over his sister's head. The boy was watching her carefully, measuring her words, deciding whether to trust. "I promise to try my hardest," Tamara said honestly. "I can't guarantee anything, but I won't stop until we find a way." Devin nodded slowly, accepting her answer. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded damp $20 bill. "I saw you put this in the tip jar," he said, holding it out to her. "Before we left? You should take it back." Tamara recognized the money she'd left for herself earlier. "Keep it," she said. "You might need it more than me." The boy hesitated, then carefully tucked the money back into his pocket. "Thank you," he said, the words carrying the weight of all that had happened that night. As the children finally gave in to exhaustion, Mrs. Williams helped settle them on makeshift beds. Tamara sat watching them sleep, wondering what tomorrow would bring and knowing only that she had done the right thing, regardless of the consequences. Outside, the storm continued to rage, but inside, in this small apartment with its mismatched furniture and thin walls, 4 children slept safely while 2 women kept watch. It wasn't much, Tamara thought, but sometimes the smallest acts of kindness could spark changes no one could predict. Morning arrived with pale sunlight filtering through Mrs. Williams's curtains. The storm had finally passed, leaving behind a transformed world of pristine white drifts and crystal-clear skies. Tamara woke stiff from sleeping in an armchair, her neck protesting as she straightened. Around her, the children were still sleeping. Tyler sprawled on the couch. Devin curled protectively near his sister on the makeshift bed of blankets. Mrs. Williams was already awake, moving quietly in the kitchen. The smell of coffee and pancakes filled the small apartment. She nodded at Tamara when she noticed her stirring. "Called the diner for you," the older woman whispered. "Told them you're snowed in. That nice cook Dion, is it?" "Said not to worry. They're closed today anyway. Roads are a mess." "Thanks," Tamara replied, easing herself up. "I should call Alice now while the kids are still asleep." Mrs. Williams passed her a steaming mug. "Use my phone. Looks like yours is dead." Sure enough, Tamara's phone had died overnight. She took Mrs. Williams' landline into the hallway, dialing a number she knew by heart. Alice Chen had helped several families in the building over the years, going above and beyond her job description at social services. If anyone could help Devin and Lily, it would be her. The call went to voicemail. Tamara left a message, keeping details vague but emphasizing the urgency. She tried Alice's cell phone next, relieved when her friend picked up on the 3rd ring. "It's Tamara," she said quietly, glancing at the apartment door to make sure it was closed. "I need your help. I've got 2 kids here, brother and sister. Foster placement that's not working out." "Not working out how?" Alice's voice was immediately alert despite the early hour. "Food restriction, emotional neglect. The Blackwells." Alice sighed. "I've heard rumors about them. Nothing we could prove." "How did you end up with the children?" "They came into the diner last night during the storm. running away, trying to get to the bus station. They're scared of being separated. Names? Devin and Lily, don't know their last name yet. Ages? Boys around 10, girl maybe 6 or 7. Tamara could hear Alice typing on the other end. Might be the Wilson children. We've had trouble placing them together. Lost their parents in that multi-car pileup on the interstate last spring. That's them, Tamara confirmed, remembering what Devin had said. Can you help? I'll be there as soon as the roads are clear, Alice promised. Keep them with you for now. I'll handle the Blackwells. When Tamara returned to the apartment, the children were awake. Tyler was showing Lily his collection of toy cars while Devin sat nearby, watching carefully. The boy's shoulders relaxed slightly when Tamara entered. Good morning, she greeted them. Sleep okay? Lily nodded enthusiastically. Tyler has 27 cars. We counted. 28, Tyler corrected. You forgot the blue one under the chair. Tamara smiled at her son, grateful for his easy acceptance of their unexpected guests. Mrs. Williams set plates of pancakes on the table, and the children scrambled to eat. For a moment watching them, Tamara could almost forget the complications that awaited them. After breakfast, they made their way across the hall to Tamara's apartment. It was smaller than Mrs. Williams' place, just 2 bedrooms, a tiny kitchen, and a living room with second-hand furniture. But it was clean and warm, and right now that was what mattered. I talked to my friend Alice, Tamara told Devin while Tyler showed Lily his room. She's coming over once the roads are cleared. Devin nodded, his eyes serious beyond his years. Then what happens? Then we figure things out, Tamara said honestly. One step at a time. The morning passed slowly. The children played with Tyler's toys while Tamara caught up on housework she'd been too tired to do the night before. Around noon, her phone, now charged, buzzed with a text from Alice. On my way. Found some info on the kids. We'll explain when I get there. Tamara felt both relief and apprehension. Whatever Alice had discovered would determine what happened next. She busied herself making lunch, trying not to worry the children with her nervous energy. The buzzer rang just as they were finishing sandwiches. Tamara pressed the intercom. Alice? It's me, her friend confirmed. Plus someone you should meet. Curious, Tamara buzzed them in. Minutes later, there was a knock at the door. She opened it to find Alice, bundled in her winter coat, cheeks red from the cold, accompanied by a tall man in an expensive-looking overcoat and polished leather shoes that seemed impractical for the snowy conditions. This is Robert Prescott, Alice introduced him. He's been looking for Devin and Lily. Tamara felt a surge of protectiveness. She stepped slightly in front of the door. Why? I'm an attorney, the man explained, his voice smooth and professional. I represent the estate of Harold Wilson. He's the children's maternal grandfather. Behind Tamara. Devin appeared in the hallway, his face cautious. Our mom's dad? Mr. Prescott nodded, his expression softening at the sight of the boy. Yes, your mother was Catherine Wilson, wasn't she? Devin nodded slowly. She never talked about her parents. She said they didn't get along. That's true, unfortunately, Mr. Prescott acknowledged. Your grandfather and your mother had a falling out many years ago. But after her death, Mr. Wilson hired me to find you and your sister. Tamara exchanged a look with Alice, who gave a small nod of confirmation. She stepped back, allowing the visitors to enter. In the living room, Mr. Prescott sat carefully on the edge of Tamara's worn sofa. He opened his leather briefcase and removed several folders. Your grandfather passed away 3 weeks ago, he explained to Devin. He'd been searching for you since learning of your parents' accident. But the foster system, well, it can be difficult to navigate from the outside. Lily had emerged from Tyler's room, curious about the newcomer. She hovered behind her brother. Did he know our mom? She asked in a small voice. Mr. Prescott smiled gently. He did, and he regretted very much that they didn't reconcile before her passing. Tamara sat beside the children, a steady presence while this stranger delivered life-changing information. So what happens now? She asked. Mr. Wilson left instructions in his will, the attorney explained, and substantial resources to ensure his grandchildren would be cared for. He turned a document around so they could see it. A photograph of a distinguished-looking, older man with the same dark eyes as Devin. This was your grandfather. He owned a manufacturing company that he built from nothing. He was a complicated man, stubborn like your mother, but he wanted to make things right for you both. Devin studied the photograph. We never met him. No, Mr. Prescott acknowledged. That was one of his greatest regrets. Alice leaned forward. The good news is Mr. Wilson's will specifies a guardian for you both. Your mother's cousin, Grace. She lives about 20 minutes from here. I've already spoken with her and she's eager to meet you. We won't be separated? Lily asked, hope filling her voice. No, Alice assured her. You'll stay together. Grace has already started the process to become your legal guardian. Relief washed over Devon's face. The first true relaxation Tamara had seen from the boy since he'd walked into the diner. Mr. Prescott cleared his throat. There's something else. Before the children were placed in protective custody last night, they mentioned a waitress who helped them. In his will, Mr. Wilson specified that anyone who showed genuine kindness to his grandchildren, without knowing their heritage, would receive a portion of his estate. He turned to Tamara, his expression serious. That would be you, Ms. Johnson. Tamara blinked in confusion. Me? But I just did what anyone would do. Perhaps what anyone should do, the attorney corrected gently. But in my experience, not what everyone would do. You took in 2 children you didn't know, at personal risk because they needed help. Mr. Wilson valued that kind of character highly. He removed an envelope from his briefcase and handed it to her. Inside was a check with more zeros than Tamara had ever seen in her bank account. I can't accept this, she stammered, trying to hand it back. It's quite legal, I assure you, Mr. Prescott said, and it's what Mr. Wilson wanted. He believed in rewarding genuine kindness. Tamara's hands trembled as she held the check. It was enough to pay off all her debts, create a college fund for Tyler, maybe even take those community college classes she'd abandoned years ago. There's more, Alice added with a smile. Tell her the rest, Robert. The attorney nodded. Mr. Wilson established a community center in this neighborhood 2 years ago, as part of his attempt to reconnect with his daughter's life. They're looking for a new manager, someone who understands the community, who has experience with customer service, and most importantly, who has compassion for others. Are you offering me a job? Tamara asked, disbelief coloring her voice. With flexible hours and benefits, Mr. Prescott confirmed. If you're interested. Tamara looked at the children, Devon, Lily, and her own son Tyler, who was watching the proceedings with wide eyes. A job with regular hours and benefits would mean more time with Tyler, less struggling to make ends meet, perhaps even a better apartment in a safer neighborhood. I don't know what to say, she admitted. Lily slipped her small hand into Tamara's. Say yes, she whispered. Devon nodded in agreement, a small smile finally breaking through his serious expression. When can I meet Grace? He asked, turning to Alice. We should make sure she's nice before we agree to anything. Alice laughed. She's waiting at my office. We can go there now if you'd like. As they prepared to leave, bundling the children back into their coats, Alice had brought proper winter gear for Devon and Lily. Tamara's neighbors began to emerge from their apartments. The unusual sight of a luxury car parked outside their building had drawn attention. Mrs. Williams stood in her doorway, watching with undisguised curiosity as Mr. Prescott explained that he would drive them all to meet Grace. I'll be back soon, Tamara promised her son, who would stay with Mrs. Williams. Be good, okay? Tyler nodded, more interested in returning to his toys than in the adult drama unfolding around him. As Tamara followed the others downstairs, her mind spun with the sudden changes in her life. 24 hours ago, she had been counting change, wondering how to stretch her paycheck to cover the electric bill. Now she was holding a check that would change everything, all because she'd done what felt right when 2 hungry children walked into her diner. Outside, the winter sun sparkled on fresh snow. Mr. Prescott's black car stood out starkly against the white landscape, drawing stares from neighbors shoveling their walkways. As Tamara approached it, Lily tugged at her hand. Does this mean we'll see you again? The little girl asked, worry creasing her small face. After we go live with Cousin Grace? Tamara knelt down, meeting her eyes. Of course. We're friends now, right? Lily smiled. Best friends. Devon stood nearby, looking both hopeful and cautious, an expression Tamara had come to recognize as his default state. Thank you, he said simply. For everything. As they climbed into the warm leather interior of the car, Tamara felt a strange mixture of emotions. Relief that the children would be safe, gratitude for the unexpected gift, and a sense that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness could set in motion changes no one could predict. The car pulled away from the curb, carrying them toward a future that suddenly held more promise than she had dared to imagine. The drive to Alice's office took longer than usual with the snow-covered streets, but inside Mr. Prescott's car, the heated leather seats and quiet engine made it feel like they were traveling in another world entirely. Devin pressed his face against the window, watching his old neighborhood slide past. Lily sat in the middle, her small legs swinging, occasionally reaching for Tamara's hand as if to reassure herself that her new friend was still there. "Is Cousin Grace nice?" Lily asked Alice, who sat in the front passenger seat. "Very nice," Alice assured her. "She's a kindergarten teacher. Has a little house with a yard and a dog named Biscuit." Lily's eyes widened. "A real dog?" "A real golden retriever," Alice confirmed with a smile. "Very gentle. Good with children." Devin remained quiet, processing everything. Tamara could almost see the boy's mind working, trying to decide if this sudden change in their circumstances was something he could trust. "What was our grandfather like?" he finally asked Mr. Prescott. "Besides being rich." The attorney considered the question carefully. "Complicated, stubborn, brilliant with machines but not always good with people. He built his company from a small workshop into a factory that employs 300 people. But he had regrets, especially about your mother. Why didn't they talk to each other?" Devin pressed Mr. Prescott's side. "Your mother wanted to be an artist. Your grandfather wanted her to join the family business. Neither would compromise. It's an old story. People who love each other but can't find middle ground." Tamara noticed how Devin absorbed this information, filing it away. For a child so young, he carried the weight of understanding far beyond his years. Alice's office was in a low brick building downtown. As they walked through the lobby, Tamara felt out of place in her waitress uniform and worn coat among the professionals in business attire. But Alice led them confidently, past the reception desk to a small conference room where a woman waited. Grace Wilson stood. As they entered, a woman in her early 30s with kind eyes and the same dark hair as the children. She froze momentarily at the sight of Devin and Lily, emotion crossing her face. "You look just like Kathy," she said softly. "Both of you." Lily moved slightly behind Tamara's legs, suddenly shy. Devin stood his ground, assessing this new person who might become their guardian. "I'm your mom's cousin," Grace explained, kneeling to be at their level. "We were close when we were your age, but then, well, families get complicated sometimes. I've been trying to find you since the accident." "Why?" Devin asked directly. Grace didn't seem offended by the question. "Because you're family, and because I promised your mom a long time ago that if she ever needed me to look after you, I would." "Did you know our dad too?" Lily asked, peeking around Tamara. "I did," Grace smiled. "He was the one who tried to help your mom and your grandfather patch things up. He nearly succeeded too." Mr. Prescott cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should discuss the arrangements. I have the paperwork here for temporary guardianship, which will give us time to process the permanent arrangement." The adults sat around the conference table while the children explored the small basket of toys. Alice kept in the corner of her office for young visitors. As they talked through legal details, Tamara found herself watching Devin and Lily, the way they still checked on each other constantly, how Devin would position himself between his sister and the door, habits formed from months of uncertainty. "There's one more thing," Grace said when they'd finished with the immediate paperwork. She turned to Tamara. "I want to thank you properly for helping them. Robert told me what you did, taking them in during the storm, standing up to the sheriff, calling Alice instead of the police. Not everyone would have done that." Tamara shook her head. "Anyone would have?" "No," Grace said firmly. "They wouldn't. Trust me, I work with children every day. What seems like basic human decency to you is actually rare." "The community center position," Mr. Prescott interjected. "Have you given it any thought?" Tamara hesitated. Everything was happening so quickly. I'd need to know more about it. "Of course," he nodded. "The center provides after-school programs, meals for seniors, job training. It needs someone who understands the neighborhood, who people trust. The hours would work around school schedules, which means you'd be home when Tyler gets out of school," Alice added. "Unlike your shifts at the diner." It sounded almost too perfect. "And the pay?" Mr. Prescott named a figure that made Tamara blink. It was nearly twice what she made at Rosie's, even counting tips. "I'd also need to give notice at the diner," she said, still processing. "They rely on me for shifts." Take whatever time you need to transition, Mr. Prescott assured her. The position will wait. Grace stood up, crossing to where the children played. Would you two like to come see the house? Meet Biscuit? There's no pressure, we can just visit today, see how it feels. Lily looked excited but turned to her brother for direction. Devin stood up, his young face serious. Will we go to the same school? He asked. If you want to, Grace nodded. It's in the same district. And we'll stay together? No matter what. No matter what, Grace promised. That's non-negotiable. Devin glanced at Tamara as if checking that she approved. She gave him an encouraging smile. I guess we could see the house, he decided. Just to visit. As they prepared to leave, Tamara felt a strange mix of emotions. Joy that the children had found a safe home, coupled with a surprising sense of loss. In just 24 hours, these two had worked their way into her heart. Lily seemed to sense this, wrapping her arms around Tamara's waist in a tight hug. Will you come visit us too? Of course, Tamara promised. If that's okay with Grace? It's more than okay, Grace assured her. In fact, why don't you and Tyler come for dinner this weekend? Once we've had a chance to settle in. 3 months later, Tamara stood in the community center's main room, directing volunteers as they set up for the spring festival. Sunlight streamed through the windows, highlighting the colorful decorations made by the after-school program children. Her phone buzzed with a text from Grace. We're on our way. Kids excited to see their artwork displayed. Tamara smiled, pocketing her phone as she straightened a table of refreshments. So much had changed since that snowy night. The community center job had indeed been perfect, challenging but fulfilling, with hours that let her be home when Tyler needed her. The check from Harold Wilson's estate had paid off her debts and allowed her to move to a better apartment in a safer building, with enough left over to start a college fund for Tyler and take night classes herself. Ms. Tamara, a familiar voice called as the doors swung open. Lily bounded in, her face brighter and healthier than that first night at the diner. Behind her came Devin, still serious, but now with the relaxed posture of a child who felt secure. Grace followed with Tyler, who had become a regular visitor at their house and Biscuit's enthusiastic playmate. Look what we brought. Lily held up a large tray of cookies. We made them ourselves. While Grace helped with the oven part, they looked delicious, Tamara said, accepting the tray. Your artwork is over there. I gave it a special place. As the children raced to see their paintings displayed, Grace moved beside Tamara. They're doing so well, she said quietly. Devin's therapist says his progress is remarkable. And Lily, well, you can see for yourself. Tamara nodded. The transformation in both children over the past months had been beautiful to witness. Regular meals, stability, and genuine care had worked wonders. How are the night classes going? Grace asked. Good, Tamara replied. Hard to believe I'm halfway through the semester already. The business management course is actually helping with running this place. From across the room, Dion waved at her. He'd quit the diner too, now working as the center's cook, preparing healthy meals for the after-school program and the senior lunch service. Several other familiar faces from the neighborhood had found jobs here as well. Mr. Henderson helping with building maintenance. Mrs. Williams running the reading program. You've changed lives here, Grace observed. Not just Devin and Lily's. Tamara shook her head. They changed mine first. Later, as the festival got underway and the center filled with neighborhood families, Tamara found a quiet moment to slip outside. The spring air was warm after the long winter, flowers pushing through the soil in the community garden beds. Across the street, she could still see Rosie's diner where everything had begun. It looked smaller somehow, though nothing about the building had changed. Or maybe, she reflected, it was she who had changed. Her world expanding beyond counting tips and worrying about bills. A tug on her sleeve brought her attention down to Lily, who had followed her outside. Devin's showing Tyler how to build the rocket model Cousin Grace got him, the little girl explained. It has real moving parts. Sounds complicated, Tamara smiled. Lily nodded seriously. Devin says it's just like what our grandfather used to make, except smaller. She took Tamara's hand. I'm glad you were working that night when we came in. Grace says it was fate. Maybe it was, Tamara agreed, squeezing the small hand in hers. Are you happy? Lily asked with a child's directness. Tamara looked back at the community center, filled with light and activity. Through the windows, she could see Tyler and Devin hunched over a table together, Grace watching them with a smile. Beyond them, neighbors and friends mingled. the center becoming exactly what Harold Wilson had envisioned, a place of connection and support. "Yes," she answered truthfully. "I'm very happy." Lily nodded, satisfied. "Me too. And Devin is too, even though he still tries to act serious." She tugged Tamara's hand. "Come on. They're about to announce the art contest winners." As she allowed herself to be led back inside, Tamara thought about how a single choice on a snowy night, to help two hungry children who walked into her diner, had rippled outward, changing not just her life but an entire community. Some might call it luck or fate or coincidence, but Tamara preferred to think of it as proof that kindness, even in the darkest times, had a power all its own. Impact. About systems that were designed to protect profits rather than people. About letters that were filed away and forgotten, and finally about what came next. 1 month later, Robert stood in the lobby of TechVision headquarters, waiting. The morning sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, catching the newly installed plaque on the wall. People before profit. Not just empty words, a promise he intended to keep. The elevator doors opened, and Sophia stepped out, looking remarkably different from when he'd first met her. Her face had more color now. Her clothes were new but modest, and though she still moved carefully, there was strength returning to her steps. "Good morning," Robert greeted her, offering a genuine smile. "Ready for your first day back?" Sophia nodded, a mixture of nervousness and determination in her expression. "I still can't believe all of this," she said quietly as they walked toward the east wing of the building. The past month had been transformative for everyone involved. After revealing his identity that night in Sophia's apartment, Robert had presented her with the folder he'd brought, documents prepared by his attorney. The first was a settlement agreement, acknowledging the company's failure in handling her medical leave and benefits. The second was a check, covering all her medical expenses and lost wages, with additional compensation for the hardship she'd endured. But it was the third document that had brought tears to Sophia's eyes, a job offer. Not for her old position, but for a new one. Director of Employee Advocacy, reporting directly to Robert himself. The role would be part-time initially, allowing her to continue her recovery, with flexible hours and the option to work from home. "The team is excited to meet you," Robert told her as they approached a newly renovated section of the building. "They've been working on the initiatives we discussed." The space before them had been transformed from traditional offices into an open, accessible environment. A sign on the wall read, "Employee Support Division." Inside, a team of 6 people looked up from their workstations. They had been handpicked over the past weeks, professionals in HR, healthcare, social work, and law, all committed to the division's mission. "Everyone, this is Sophia Ramirez," Robert announced. "As you know, she'll be leading our employee advocacy program." Warm greetings followed, but Robert noticed Sophia's momentary hesitation, the slight tremble in her hands as she shook those extended to her. This was a big step, returning to the company that had once cast her aside, now in a position of authority. "You've got this," he said quietly. "Remember why you're here." Sophia straightened her shoulders and nodded. "Where should we begin?" For the next hour, they reviewed the initiatives already underway. A complete overhaul of the medical leave policy, extended health benefits for laid-off employees, an emergency assistance fund for staff facing unexpected hardships, a mentorship program for employees from disadvantaged backgrounds. "We've identified 17 other former employees who were impacted by benefits errors during the restructuring," reported Kevin, the team's data analyst. "We've contacted 12 so far with settlement offers similar to yours." "And the work-life balance protocols?" Sophia asked, referring to policies she had specifically requested. "In the final draft stage," answered Lynn, the policy specialist. "No more 60-hour weeks without executive approval and additional compensation. No more discouraging people from using their sick days. And a new system for monitoring workload distribution to prevent the kind of understaffing that happened with your team." As the meeting continued, Robert observed the growing confidence in Sophia's voice, the clarity of her vision, the insights that only someone who had experienced the system's failures could provide. This was exactly why she was the right person for this role. Later that afternoon, Robert drove to the other location that had become a regular part of his schedule, Elijah's school. The boy was waiting outside with his backpack, talking animatedly with a friend. When he spotted Robert's car, he said goodbye and hurried over. "How was school today?" Robert asked as Elijah buckled his seatbelt. "Pretty good. I got an A on my science project, the one you helped me with." "That's fantastic," Robert replied, feeling a warmth that had become familiar over recent weeks. "Your mom's first day is going well, too." They drove toward a building, neither the apartment on Westbrook nor Robert's mansion, but something in between. A spacious two-bedroom condo in a safe neighborhood with good schools nearby. Robert had helped them secure it with a reasonable rent, insisting it wasn't charity but part of Sophia's compensation package. "Is Maria coming for dinner tonight?" Elijah asked as they walked into the building. "Of course," Robert replied. "It's our 1-month celebration, remember?" Maria had become a bridge between Robert's old life and his new one. She still worked as his housekeeper, but their relationship had evolved into something more like friendship. It was Maria who had guided him through those first awkward days of trying to help Sophia and Elijah without overwhelming them with his resources. Maria who had reminded him that dignity was as important as assistance. When they arrived at the condo, delicious smells greeted them. Sophia had insisted on cooking dinner herself tonight, a small but significant sign of her returning strength. "Mom." "We're home," Elijah called out, the words carrying a joy that came from their newfound stability. Sophia emerged from the kitchen, wearing an apron over her work clothes. "Perfect timing. Maria just texted. She'll be here in 15 minutes. As Elijah went to set the table, Robert helped Sophia carry dishes from the kitchen. "How was the rest of your day?" he asked. "Challenging," she admitted, "but good. I had a long talk with Thomas from HR. He was resistant at first, but by the end, I think he was starting to understand our perspective. That's more progress than I made in 10 years of working with him," Robert said with a smile. "Sometimes it takes someone who's been on both sides to build the bridge," Sophia replied. The doorbell rang and Elijah rushed to let Maria in. She entered carrying a homemade cake, her face brightening at the domestic scene before her. "So this is what happens when people actually eat the food I prepare," she teased, giving Robert a pointed look that reminded him of how their journey together had begun. During dinner, the conversation flowed easily between workplace stories, Elijah's school adventures, and plans for the future. Robert found himself sharing more personal thoughts than he once would have, about his own family background, his early struggles, how somewhere along the way he'd lost sight of the human element in his success. "The board meeting went better than expected," he told them. "When I showed them the data on how employee well-being directly impacts productivity and retention, even the most profit-focused members started to come around." "And the new hiring initiative?" Sophia asked. "Approved," Robert confirmed. 10% of all new positions will be reserved for candidates from underserved communities, with mentorship programs to support their success. As they finished dinner and moved to the living room for cake, Robert noticed the latest addition to the shelf of family photos, a picture taken the previous weekend during a park outing. Sophia and Elijah stood in the center, with Maria and himself on either side. All smiling, all connected by circumstances none of them could have predicted. Maria followed his gaze. "Quite a change from a month ago, isn't it?" "Everything's different," he agreed. "Not everything," she corrected gently. "The food still disappears from your kitchen. I just don't have to be secretive about it anymore." It was true. Maria now regularly prepared meals not just for Robert, but also for several families in need, with his full knowledge and support. What had once seemed like a betrayal had become a mission they shared. Later, as Robert prepared to leave, Elijah stopped him at the door. "I got accepted into the advanced math program," the boy said, a hint of shy pride in his voice. "It starts next semester." "That's wonderful," Robert replied, genuinely delighted. He had seen the boy's potential, his quick mind that had merely needed stability and opportunity to flourish. "Mom says it costs extra," Elijah continued, "but she says we can manage it now." "I'm sure you can," Robert assured him. "And if you need any help with the coursework, just ask. Math was always my best subject." Driving home, Robert reflected on how his life had changed in just 1 month. His days were busier, more complicated, and filled with challenges he'd never anticipated. The company was undergoing significant transformations, not all of them smooth or welcomed by everyone. But for the first time in years, he felt a sense of purpose that went beyond balance sheets and market share. the thank you notes from former employees who'd finally received their due benefits, the growing enthusiasm of the new employee advocacy team, Elijah's excited calls about school achievements, Sophia's thoughtful insights that were already improving company culture. As he pulled into his driveway, Robert smiled at the realization that his home no longer felt empty. Though he still lived alone, it had become a place where others were welcome, where leftover food was packed with intention, where the boundaries between giving and receiving had blurred into something that enriched everyone involved, all because he'd caught his maid giving away food and had been willing to follow that discovery wherever it led.